Board members, if I can get you to find your seats, we're going to get started. We're on the last part of our day, board members, but this is an important part. So with that, I'm seeking a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Those opposed? Okay, unanimous. It's pretty quiet aye. Arr. Okay. All right. Okay, motion passes. Okay, we have one public comment, and we have Chris Bischke. Is she? Where is she? Oh, there's. Okay. Can we find her a chair and a mic? Okay. We want to welcome you. Chris, we have a timer here. It's like 3 minutes, and Lorraine is good to throw signs up. But
that works.
Time's yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Huntsman, board members, good afternoon. I am Dr. Chris Bischke. I can't even say my own name. I am faculty at the University of Utah. I am director of the Multi-University Consortium Teacher Preparation Program in Sensory Impairments, which is a collaboration between Utah State University and the University of Utah. But I am here today as chair of the Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind Advisory Council. And I just wanted to come and introduce myself so that I'm a familiar face. I'm here to provide support, whatever I can do. For those of you who are not familiar with the Advisory Council, the makeup of the Advisory Council includes individuals from the community who are deaf and hard of hearing, individuals who are visually impaired, and parents of individuals who are deaf-blind. We also currently have a teacher from Usdb who is from the deaf school. We have in the past had a teacher from the blind school, but right now we're short an individual. We're recruiting, but we haven't found anybody yet to fill that spot. And then, of course, also on the Advisory Council is Superintendent Coleman, Associate Superintendent Lassiter, and Tanner as well. So just know that we're here to support you, provide advice, as well as provide advice for USDB.
And thank you, and I appreciate your hospitality in your last meeting. Plan on attending your next one. So
Excellent.
So
thank you for joining us.
So we have a familiar face here. Thank you. Next on our agenda is our monthly budget report, and we have someone new. Do you want to introduce Superintendent Coleman?
Thank you.
Carl Empey, please.
Yes, board members, you're aware that Letty has decided to retire, Letty Debenham, and so we were excited to be able to find someone of very high quality to replace her, and this is Carl Empey. And Carl, I will let you just introduce yourself to the board briefly and tell them where you came from and what you've done, and before you give your report, if you don't mind.
No, I'd be happy to. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. I recently just came over from the Department of Natural Resources and worked for the state. Prior to that, I was in investment banking for a lot of years, was Zions Bank Public Finance and with Piper Jaffray. So I'm excited to be here, and I've got 3 weeks of experience. So as I present the financials to you, be a little delicate with your questions, but I'll do the best I can to answer them. The financial report as of November 13th that are in your packets, you can see that we've spent as of through November 13th $9.2 million. That represents 26% of our budget revenues of $35.3 million. Year to date, we've spent $10.2 million, or rounding by $10.3 million, which is 29% of our budgeted revenues of $35.8 million. So we spent a little bit more than $1 million more than what our revenues were. And that's really easy to explain. We've got a timing delay difference. We needed to provide some information to the state office staff so we could get reimbursed for transportation, for educator salaries adjustments. and for teacher supplies. The state staff received that last week, and they transferred the money to us as of last Friday, and it was in excess of $2 million. So next month, as you see, our percentages should be more in alignment with revenues and expenses. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions from board members? Just as a little bit of a heads up, as you're aware, we also have staff on the USBE side. Deputy Superintendent Scott Jones is working closely with Carl. I've requested that a lot of our reporting and our procedures and that kind of parallel moving forward. And let me just ask a question. How's that working?
We're progressing on that, and next month you'll see in our report a more consistent format with what you've seen from the state office.
Okay. Thank you. Board Member Reeby.
I think we neglected to approve the minutes from last meeting. Do we approve the minutes?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we did? Oh, okay, sorry.
That's in the consent. That's in the consent calendar.
Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, that's fine.
Thank you for checking, though. Any other questions?
So I'm just looking at this financial report for November, and it says it's telling us where the revenue comes from. It says the state gives 81% and the federal gives 3.6%. Is that all we get from the feds to
Yes.
help these kids?
Yes.
Can I just say boo to that? Yeah, I was thinking we should get a lot more federal dollars. That was the reason for getting involved in public education anyway. Oh my gosh. Thanks for verifying.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any further questions?
Some people are happy about that.
Thank you, Mr. Ampe. We look forward to next month, or our next month report with
Great.
in a different format. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have a presentation from School Director Mike Hillstrom. Is that correct? So this will be on our PowerPoint. And
Hi, I'm Mike Hillstrom. I've been with the school for approximately one half of my life, 34 years. I started when I was 18 years old, actually worked in the dorms. And I've seen a lot of changes at the school. My presentation is going to be short. Superintendent Coleman said that would be nice. It's going to be sweet and visual just for you. Kenneth Burdett School for the Deaf is the original school that was established in I've got a slide here to show you a little bit of the history. We were the original school established in 1884. That's the one on the left, of course. And in 1954 is the present building that's on the campus of the old deaf school. That's on 20th and Monroe in Ogden. That's actually where I had started, but the school then was big. It came from, of course, all the students in Utah, but it also had students from Idaho, from Nevada, and from Wyoming at that time came to this school, and it was a big residential school at that point. But in 1993, the legislature build us a new building. It's now located on 7th and Harrison in Ogden. And that's where the current deaf and blind school are. Right now we are on the north side of that campus, and it's called the Kenneth Burdett School. It was named after one of the former teachers that was there. The school, my school anyway, is you had a presentation from JMS, I think, already, John Masul. Anyway, we were in that 93 split, and actually even before that, since public laws were enacted in the 70s, the school had shrunk quite a bit, which was one of the reasons for this move. The campus was so big on the old campus, and many parents were wanting them to be served closer to their home. And so Salt Lake program, which you'll hear about in the future, is actually bigger than ours. We're about half their size. And I'll tell you how many students we have a little bit later. But we do serve students from the middle of Davis County north all the way to the Idaho border. We have a campus program here. We also have itinerant teachers that go to Morgan, Cache, and Box Elder counties. And we also have students that we serve in those two public schools, North Ogden Junior High and High School. So the preschool through sixth grade elementary program are served on the campus, which I just showed you. And after that, they go to the mainstream at North Ogden and Weber. They've been there for quite a while. We're at Ben Lomond and Roy and at other schools, but for approximately the last 10 years, we've been at these schools. We also have a cottage program. Ours is the one that, because it was the residential program before, we still have that component. So we have some students that are served from 16 up to age 22 in the cottage program. Most of those come from our post high, which is also on the campus, which is a transition school, transition program that help students learn independent skills, learn life skills, and vocational skills. And that's housed in that building right there. We have approximately 11 teachers, 10 of which are shown here. The best staff on earth. They are wonderful, wonderful teachers and dedicated to their professions. A few of them came from public settings, but most of them have a deaf licensure and teach the deaf. I have approximately on that staff right there, one that's fully deaf and 3 others that are hard of hearing. So, 4 others that are hard of hearing. So almost half my staff at least has some hearing loss to them. I have 7 paraprofessionals and actually 2 of those are job coaches that help with the post-high program, and they reach down into the high school setting as well. This is the most important part. It's the best picture I could find with a lot of kids in it. My students range from, again, 3 years old all the way up to age 22, and this is basically the elementary portion of it, or part of them. Most of them have cochlears. Maybe half of them have cochlear implants. If you're not familiar with that, I think you probably should be. Hearing aids, and then we do have some LSL kids, which is listening and spoken language. They do not learn sign language. Our program is an ASL English based, which means we sign almost all of the instruction in sign language, but we actually have 2 classrooms with not signed programs. It's an LSL program. I do not really have much more to present unless you have any questions, which I put a big bunch of question marks for you, but that kind of gives an overview of what KBS is.
Okay, questions from board members? I have one, and I appreciate all your years of service, for one.
That's been great.
What is the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years, have you noticed any trends on enrollment, needs? Can you
that's a good
speak
question.
to that just a little bit, please?
Yes. We used to have more of the LSL kids. We used to call them oral kids. When I first started, there was an oral and a total TC department. Oral kids that would not be as successful in the mainstream that would come over to our program and learn sign language. And they would start that usually by junior high, sometimes, usually by junior high on up. And in the last few years, I've noticed that we've had fewer and fewer of those students come over from that program. So that means one of 2 things. Either they would come over because they're struggling in an oral program, in an LSL program, and they'd come over to learn sign language. So either they're being very successful in what they're doing, which I think is the case actually, because when they get extremely frustrated and in not having sign language, we would take them on and teach them. And I have not seen that happen lately. So either they're being very successful or they're just staying frustrated in the public setting or the LSL setting. That's one trend I've noticed. Other things that I've noticed, we seem to be having more multiple disabled kids than we had previously. Back when I started, I was 18, and I don't want to tell you what year that was because that would give away my age. But back approximately 35 years ago, more just deaf only, and strong deaf culture that was there. The language was developed on the campus program. The cultures developed all of the nuances of a culture. And now with more multiple disabled kids, we still have regular deaf children as well. But it presents a lot more challenging classroom situations with autism and just other physical deformities, learning disabilities. A lot of those are more incorporated into our classrooms. That's another big change I've noticed over the years.
Okay.
That's a good question, though.
Thank you. Board Member Reapy, I'm presuming.
We are also in our other neighborhood public schools, we are also seeing similar instances of multiple challenges in our students. So I think that as we move forward as a board, we are looking to increase wraparound services. And this is a conversation that lots of people have been having about supporting our students on multiple levels, and not just for maybe one challenge that a student has, but the multiple challenges that accompany each challenge for a student. So you're not alone, and we are trying to work on that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments, but thank you again for what, here we go.
I have another chance to ask Superintendent Coleman, but I can ask these folks. Some of us have received some emails expressing concerns that your website is not ADA compliant. Is it? Can you, any of you, speak to that?
I can.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, let's make sure we're done with this presentation if we could. Do we have any questions for?
I thought that was kind of related to the presentation. No, I don't have any other, just related to all of you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Great job, Mike. That's a great question about the website. Last year, we had a lot of interaction with OCR, the Office of Civil Rights from the Federal Department of Education. And they had contacted us and said that a private party who was doing this with lots of schools had said that our website was not ADA compliant. And we were unaware of that. When we developed the website, we involved people that were blind, people that were deaf, and software that actually searched for errors and things like that. And we thought it was very clean. We went back in and they helped us identify a few things. And I actually just asked Jared, I said, do whatever it takes. We don't want to ever be accused of not being accessible. And so
a bit of an irony.
Yes, it really is. And what happened is we eventually found out that their webs that they don't use people to check. They use a software package.
You mean OCR?
OCR. And the attorney we talked to from OCR said, yeah, we haven't had human beings check it. We just got these errors on a software package. So Jared said, well, we've used the software and human beings here and who are blind, and our technology specialist is blind. And so we said there are no actual errors on it, and we came to an agreement with them, and we passed. And my last thing that I'll report back on that is we're redoing the whole website right now, and that was one of the qualifications in the RFP, was that it had to continue to be
It's
completely
good to know
accessible.
how to respond to those kind of concerns, because how would I even know to,
Yes.
I mean, I need beyond ADA compliant for some websites, so thank you.
Yeah. And if there ever is a problem, we might make a mistake, but we're more than willing to fix it instantly.
Thank you very much.
We'll move next to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. So I have kind of two portions of my report today for you. And the first one is an update on our Springville building. And I brought a little model. And this is really a school for ants. If you've seen Zoolander, Patty reminded me of that today. But anyway, I'm going to pass this around to you. This is essentially the design of the building. This lid comes off here, the roof on the main gym area, and you can actually kind of look through this building and see how it will look inside. Well, we don't know yet until it's built. No. It would. And since we're still in the design phase, we could do that. I'll just basically tell you this much. These are both classroom wings, and the center part is the gym and office space and our meeting rooms and so forth. It's a pretty simple building. These gray areas at this end, it's one classroom and a hallway, and then this hallway down here, this is some square footage we've had to take off. Our ideal design would have all 14 classrooms. We'll probably only be able to build 13 with the money that was appropriated to us from the legislature. But it'll be, we can add this on later if we ever get more funding. And this is just how it works. Plus construction costs have already gone up about 10% just this year. Our architects notified us about that yesterday. So with that, because we designed within the parameters they gave us, we'll probably be able to get a little supplemental funding without another bill or anything like that. But it's been pretty tight constraints. So I'll just pass this around here and you can play with that. It's really neat. In your packet, you also have the schematic design presentation that was given to us in our update about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And you can see some renderings, some hand drawings from our architects, and some examples of the architectural features that'll be inside. So you can get a feel for the colors and the textures and the different things that are used. It's the same architect that built our Salt Lake building. They were the only ones that bid on this building, and we were glad they did. They will be able to build it just without any problem since they just had that experience with us. And we're excited. It's on track and timing and everything else. Do you have any questions about it?
How many students will it serve?
Right now in the Utah County region, we have about 60 deaf students, and how many blind students? About 10. When this building is built, there are students in the districts right now, and we've been talking to the districts that would come to our program and really need to, but we don't have the space. We're in about 7 classrooms right now. This will be 13, and it'll be full on the day that we open. And so we're serving them as well as we can with itinerant services, but for these kids, it's really optimal to be in a campus setting of their own, I think.
Yes, 100?
I would. Yeah. And those were the numbers that we estimated when we did our study for the architects and the feasibility study before we even presented it to the legislature. So that's our anticipation.
K-12?
No, this will be mostly an elementary school. Oh, that's right. Preschool through the end of elementary. And then our junior high and high school programs, we have partnerships with the local junior highs and high schools, and we have classrooms in their buildings, just like we do in Salt Lake County and in Ogden.
Thank you, Joe.
You bet. These are great questions. Okay, and the second document that I put on your board docs is called Key Initiatives at USDB. I was starting to generate this document, and I mentioned it to Chairman Huntsman when he came and visited our advisory council last month, and was very, very helpful with us in training them and helping them to understand and manage expectations of exactly what their role is. And while we were discussing this, he said, this should probably form the basis of your superintendent reports in the future. And this is an exhaustive list, some of which we have already completed as far as facilities go, but other initiatives that are long-term, ongoing in our overall vision to improve the experience of the children at schools for deaf and blind. And so I've divided it into 6 different sections of overall initiatives. This will help you get a feel for what is on our minds every single day, in addition to the work we have to do and the tasks we have to execute and situations that just arise in the normal course of business. This is our visionary goal. This is our driving kind of list of things that we're always working on in some capacity or another. Yes, go ahead.
So what I asked superintendent to do is to provide this list. We're not going to be able to go through the whole list, but by having this list, if anything advances or something significant during the month, we can go to this list, and he can include that in his superintendent's report, so we know what progress is happening and when it happened. And then you can always go back to this and saying, okay, this is all work in progress. And so this is kind of like the baseline, a beginning point of what is happening there. Without, we could have a training. We can spend an hour or so on every item. And then also, I wanted to have this out here so if you as board members have questions and you can go to this, then get them to me, and then we'll make sure that we bring these up into the future board meetings. So
this is also going to be available on our website, and you'll notice that links will start to appear on here, kind of like the one down here under the regulatory barriers or the USIMAC sustainability plan, so that as we develop this out, we want our staff members, we want our parents, we want our administrators and the general public, the legislators and board members, to all be on the same page with us, as we're very transparent about what we're doing. Sometimes I feel like we come into board meeting and I'll mention something like, oh, we're at the League of Innovative Schools working on our digital teaching and learning strategies. And I realize with all the things that you have to do, you're probably going, what's the context for this? They were members of the League of Innovative Schools? We didn't know that, And so my hope is that this is just all out there on the table, and we accept information from our advisory council and directions from you as our board, and that we just kind of start going through these, and we've already been working on them, but this is where we are.
Okay, we have a question from board member Reeby.
I do too.
Oh. Then we'll go over here.
My first question is, we are struggling in our building, so can you please invite us to your building? Because I think I'd rather attend there every other month. That's a joke. Not really, but kind of. My other question is, I need a little piece of education. We work to have a least restrictive environment with the students in our neighborhood schools, and so I don't understand why we don't have more of a least restrictive environment with our blind and our deaf students. We house them in another school and we keep them secluded almost. So I don't understand where that's from. So I just need a piece of education on that.
It's a really great question. Sometimes I group our students into three groups. The blind students, the students in the blind school, and then the two groups of students in our deaf school. Even though we're trying to tear down those barriers, it still helps for a discussion like this to think of them differently. Our blind students and our LSL, or oral students, they tend to generally stay with us from birth until kindergarten, when they go back with their non-disabled peers. And that is the least restrictive environment for them, because it's specialized in those early years. The American Sign Language kids, the ASL English kids, we call them, their least restrictive environment is not with their peers because they're isolated. They're isolated, and it's a very frustrating learning environment for them. The restriction for them is language, the language barrier. So when they can go and attend a school where everyone communicates directly with them through a shared language instead of through an interpreter, that removes those restrictions, and that's where they blossom and have the most success socially, academically, and emotionally. And so that's a very broad overview of the philosophy behind that.
Okay. Did you have a follow-up?
I do. So as we move from 9 through 12, how do we prepare them to integrate into a bigger environment? Because we don't have colleges that are geared toward. Do we have colleges that are geared to the deaf and the blind? They do? Okay. See, I'm really asking ignorant questions because I really don't know. So thank you for educating me, because I struggle with, we have kids in wheelchairs and we have kids that use their mouths to move a chair. So I'm just like, wow, I just was wondering why we don't work harder to integrate our students into our other schools.
You were asking
Thank
exactly
you.
the right questions. Associate Superintendents, do you have anything to add?
I can address about the deaf in the high schools. Actually, as he presented, we actually we are housed with the high school, and we collaborate with the junior highs and the high school. So in the Salt Lake Valley, for example, they come to us for the core classes. They're the meat and potatoes, the English, math, science, and then when they need an elective, they go over to the school that we collaborate with, which is Evergreen Junior High in the Salt Lake Valley. We have a high school program up at Skyline right now, and that's where our kids attend. All of our high school students are attended. We send our teachers up there, and so we have core classes that they give us space in their buildings. Same thing's happening in Weber High School, so we do that as well. Lots of, and it's always, as you know, an individualized decision. Some kids really need to be in more with us because they have other disabilities that are really making it difficult for them to be successful in those environments. And there's other kids who, for the most part, are mainstream. That they're just with their peers, so they have someone to talk to. They have a friend, which is other deaf peers. So.
Could
Board
I
Member
add that
Hanson?
too? Sorry.
Board Member Hanson, did you have something?
I liked your list. I thought it was great. I just had a question about one of them. Because someone called me about Lead K about a year or so ago, was concerned, said it was kind of controversial. And so I'm wondering how the parents feel about using their policies or whatever you're using. I can't remember now. It's not in front of me, but in the school, are they okay with it now, or there's some people who still don't like it, or I mean, because it was very divisive, I remember at the time.
Yeah, I think Superintendent Tanner can answer that and give you an update on it. But I think Superintendent Lassiter had a follow-up comment on the previous question first. Is that okay?
That would be great. And just so that you understand how the blind works as well, most of our kids that come to our school are early childhood kiddos as well. They'll be preschool almost to about third grade, and then they're returned to their mainstream or their home school districts. Our job is to get in, get Braille under their fingertips, some technology under their fingertips, and then they go home. That's our goal, even though we want to keep some of them. They're so dang cute. Our older kids may come back for what we call the expanded core curriculum. So they'll come back to prepare them for all the post-high and educational and college experiences and career readiness skills. And that becomes the IEP team decision as well. So majority of our kids, early childhood. Another majority is our post-high, late high school, post-high kiddos. Other than that, we do have magnet classrooms that are attached to school districts so they can have those mainstream opportunities. So honestly, we have the best of both worlds. Sometimes we are the nomads trying to find a space in schools where they can fit us. But for the most part, they've been very accommodating. And those kids can attend with their buddies, and they come into us for that intense instruction. So our general guideline is if we have them for more than half a day, they generally come on our IEP. But if they don't need that much intense instruction, they usually belong to an IEP with that district.
So
I hope that answered the question.
I'm glad you shared that. So back to the Lead K question that Board Member Hanson had. Michelle, would you like to give her an update?
Yeah. Oh, and I'm so grateful we have the Lead K committee because, you know, one of the things that I knew when I was walking in is I was putting together two different ways in which they view children. So I don't know if you've seen the cartoon. We have two people standing to the side. Down on the floor it looks like either a 6 if you're looking at it from this way, or it looks like a 9 depending on if you're looking at it from the other way. I feel that's what we've done. We have a group and we all see the same child very differently. So what's been nice about the Lead K meeting is there is an individual that represents both sides of that, the people that are looking at it from one direction, people looking at it from another. So a parent from each vein, a teacher from each vein, an administrator, a community member. And what has been, those meetings have been absolutely beautiful. We have stayed true to exactly what we were doing, which we're looking at assessments and milestones that are appropriate for deaf children to make. And so we have gone through an extensive list. I mean, we are now, it started in January of last year. It's been a year. We've just been taking that time working through assessments. And we've brought every single assessment there is out there on deaf children, and we brought it to the table, and we've talked to it and looked to one another in the eye. It's been very friendly, very cordial. And we've had very few incidences where somebody wanted to get them off on a tangent on their own little soapbox. And I just pulled them back in on that so that we didn't have those types of discussions, and we focused on the assessments. We're getting to the point now we're doing milestones. And so we've taken data. What we've got right now is we've taken the milestones that this committee has recommended. We're sending it out to all of our teachers that teach preschool and PIP. And we're saying, use this. See what you think. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. This is something that was developed by another state. We are open to any feedback anybody gives us. So we're going to get that data back. We're going to give it 3 months so we can get quality data. And we'll look at that as a team in March. And then we'll move forward with those milestones. It's been a very positive experience. It's been really good. Everybody's been very faithful into coming. Everybody's been very engaged, cordial, professional, and it's been wonderful to see these two groups of people who are normally, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say it's a holy war, to have them in the same room and seeing the value of one another. It's what I say to my staff all the time. Everyone has value. Everyone adds value, and we need to come together and look at these children as a whole. And maybe sometimes you're going to have to look at it and see it from this vantage point, and sometimes you have to see it from this vantage point, but equal of value. So it's been a great experience, and we've had great, and I report out every month I share it out with everybody. I share it on the advisory council every month, kind of how we're progressing, and share it out to the stakeholders that we've got, and encourage them to share it out to their stakeholders.
Question. So
Yeah, follow-up.
are they open meetings? Can anybody come and observe?
They're just committee meetings, so it's more, they're working groups, so they haven't
they're-
been like in
because
the
I
whole
think
world's
that was
coming
one
in.
thing they asked me before, if they could come and observe. But you haven't had any
I haven't.
requests to do that. There's
No.
regular committee meetings.
It's been more like work groups. So we work together. We take like, for example, an assessment. We take it, we analyze it, we look at the data, the research behind it. Is that better for a student that uses primarily spoken language, or is that better for a student that uses sign language? Because there are different assessments that are very, they're discriminatory against our students because they can't hear. They'll say, as far as they move through there, they can now say the word ooh, and the child's developing language, but not through an auditory pathway. So we have to watch for those in the assessments. So it's been a great experience. I've really enjoyed it.
Okay. Vice Chair Brittany Cummins.
Thank you for the list. And I was just curious how difficult it would be to line up these initiatives with the strategic plans that were submitted last month, a couple months ago.
I don't know. I haven't
Okay.
tried. I'll tell you, this
Good
list was generated mostly for me. We're going down the road for all these things because we've determined that they play a key role in our strategic plans somewhere. But I was feeling like, are we being spread too thin, or is this manageable? There's nothing on here that we don't think is actually critical. So I don't think it would be that hard to line it up. I think we should work on doing that. That's a good recommendation.
Okay, you want to continue with your report?
Well, I guess today I didn't want to emphasize any particular one except for the little building. I wanted to show you our progress on that, but the little ant school. But I do want you just to realize there are three groups of initiatives focused on different people: students first, parents, and our own staff. And then there are three groups of initiatives focused on business. Master Communications Plan. We're in the process of hiring a new communications director, and that will really help. This has actually been one of my priorities, but we haven't quite had the resources to execute it right. The second thing is capital improvements as far as business initiatives go, and I update you all the time on that. You can see a lot that we've already done and where we're going with that in the future. It will have an end eventually, I think. And then the last one is regulatory barriers. That's a business issue, and that we've been meeting with members of your staff here who have been very supportive of us and asking them what we can do here or there so that we can change rules, or what do they think about different laws and so forth. And so those are all listed there for your review. And then we'll pick out a few, either at your request, if you want to contact me, say, hey, Joel, what are you thinking on the 3% rule? We talk about that next time? Or whatever, or if something comes up and we're involved in it, I want to keep you updated too. and Carolyn has something to say. Oh, yes, recently we were here at a meeting and the board staff told us that DSBVI, Division of Services for the Blind and Visually Impaired, had reached out to the board office and said, we kind of have a recommendation that USDB takes over vision screening in schools. Why are we doing it? And it has to do with a deal that was made a long time ago. So that's not really an initiative we're pursuing, but we're very accommodating, and it really probably should be us overseeing that because we do work with school children. So we've been just having informal conversations with them, and Angie Stallings is following through on it to see if they want to transfer that over to us. It would be about 1 FTE, and it's not earth-shattering or anything, but I should probably let you know those discussions are in the works, and we're happy to accommodate that. It makes a lot of sense because if a child fails a vision screening and we're the ones that have that data, the parents would have access to our services immediately to get information on how to follow up for their child. Okay.
Vice Chair Ellis.
Thank you for all your work today and for the presentation. We had talked informally in the hall as I was meeting for one of our eliminating barriers, and you were in here for something else. And so I see that you've put together some things, and so we'd like to see if you would be interested. We can talk later in coming in to talk to our committee about some of the barriers to see if there's anything that we can do to help you there.
I'd be happy to. That's our report.
Any other questions? So we're looking forward to this list improving, to kind of aligning with our strategic plan, and we'll use it as part of our agenda items moving forward. We don't have any other business. I'm seeking a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Voting is unanimous. Thank you, and thank you for being here, and I hope everyone has a happy holidays.